A couple of days ago, I made a video talking about the top 10 Pokemon in Pokemon GO as of the summer of 2025. And sure enough, pretty much every single one of the Pokemon that I talked about in that video were Legendaries and Mythicals. But today I want to do another top 10 video, but this time focus on non-legendary Pokemon, which I would consider to be the best of the best within the game right now. And that's precisely what this video is going to be about. I'm going to be looking at non-legendary Pokemon and telling you what I perceive to be the absolute best. Alright, what's happening everyone? Count Jinsula here with a brand new Pokemon GO video. I hope your day is going really well, and let's get right into it. So for today, we're going to be counting down the top 10 Pokemon which I perceive to be the best in Pokemon GO that just so happen to be not legendaries or mythical Pokemon. And of course, this is going to be one of those videos that is going to be quite contentious because there's just so many non-legendary Pokemon that many players would consider to be the absolute best. But these are the ones that I would consider to be the best, mainly because I use them the most often and I feel like their power level is to the same degree as you would find with legendary Pokemon. Now, the one thing I will say is that when it comes to a little bit of housekeeping, I'm not going to be considering shadow damage because I feel like that in and of itself should be its own list. And I'm also not going to be counting PvP Pokemon because once again, if we were to count PvP Pokemon, this list would be substantially high and it would look completely different. So this is going to be focusing mainly on PvE content, specifically with Team Go Rocket battles, gym battles, as well as raid battles. And these are all Pokemon that I would consider to be the most useful. But I will also be considering Mega Evolutions. A lot of these Pokemon, the reason why they will be considered top tier is because of the Mega Evolutions that they have available to them. So that is something that you should keep in mind when it comes to this list. There's going to be Pokemon on here that may not necessarily be top tier on their own, but their Mega Evolutions are what makes them the most powerful. So let's start this off with a personal favorite of mine, and it's a Pokemon that I use quite often, and it's going to be Gardevoir, specifically with Fairy type attacks. Now Gardevoir is going to be a powerhouse when it comes to Fairy type raid damage, but it also has a Mega Evolution, which in most cases is going to be the absolute best Fairy type Mega Evolution in the game. There's of course Mega Diancie, which a lot of players will opt to use, but I really do feel like Mega Gardevoir is going to be the better option, specifically because one thing is that it does have the type combination of Psychic and Fairy, which does give it a lot of resistances, but also at the same time, it is a very powerful Pokemon. It deals an incredible amount of damage. So personally for me, I feel like Mega Gardevoir is definitely one of the best non-legendary Pokemon you can have, and regular Gardevoir is also going to be equally strong. Next up on this list is going to be Garchomp, and just like with Mega Gardevoir and Gardevoir, it also has a Mega Evolution, but its Mega Evolution is not necessarily going to be top tier. When it comes to ground type attacks, we of course have Groudon, and when it comes to dragon type attacks, we have another Pokemon which I'll talk about later. I really do think this Pokemon is incredibly powerful, and I think it has the added benefit of also being a really solid Master League Pokemon. It may not necessarily be one of the best Master League Pokemon, but especially when it comes to stuff like the Master Premier League, this is always going to be top tier. But yeah, as a raid attacker, it's incredibly useful. With Dragon type raid damage as well as Ground type raid damage, it can deal a lot, and it's very versatile. So Garchomp and Mega Garchomp is going to be on this list as one of the top 10 non-legendary Pokemon. Next up, we have Lucario, which, for the same reasons as Gardevoir and Garchomp, is a very powerful Pokemon with a Mega Evolution. And yes, it is going to be one of those Mega Evolutions that is going to be top tier because there's not many fighting type Mega Evolutions that you could use, and Lucario is definitely that. It's a very powerful fighting type Mega Evolution, and then on top of that, without its Mega Evolution, it is incredibly powerful as a non-legendary Pokemon. In most cases, this is going to be your best gym sweeper. Like if you're attacking gyms and you need a very powerful fighting type, this is one you can use. It's got the steel typing as well, which allows it to resist a lot of counterattacks from like fairy types. It's a very powerful Pokemon to have, and I really do think when it comes to non-legendaries, Lucario is a must if you're counting what the top 10 Pokemon are. Next up, we gotta talk about another Pokemon, and you're gonna start seeing a theme. These are Pokemon with Mega Evolutions, but Tyranitar. This is a powerhouse, and it always kind of has been, but the nice thing about Tyranitar is that it could be the most powerful with two different typings, more specifically with Rock types or Dark types. And I want to actually pull up a Tyranitar that's actually, right here we go. So this would be a very phenomenal rock type attacker. With Smackdown and Stone Edge, this is going to be a top tier Pokemon. And yes, if you Mega Evolve it, it's going to be your strongest rock type that you can use. But you could also use it as a dark type. And I don't really have it here, but if you have one with Bite and the Brutal Swing, that's going to be a top tier dark type. And then yeah, if you Mega Evolve it, it's going to be a very powerful dark type raid attacker. I really do think when it comes to versatility and when it comes to attack damage, this is one of those Pokemon you should always bring with you. It's a very powerful Pokemon. And this is going to be the first Pokemon on this list without a Mega Evolution, but it's mainly because the Mega Evolution has yet to come out. But it's going to be Mega Metagross, or I should say regular Metagross. And when Mega Metagross comes out, yes, this is going to be solidified as one of the best Pokemon in the game, and probably for the foreseeable future. But yeah, Metagross is a powerhouse. I really do like this Pokemon. It's incredibly useful, and just like with Garchomp, this is going to be one of those Pokemon that's also going to be really good for the Master League, and I think the Ultra League as well. It's a very strong Pokemon. It's one of the best, if not the best Steel type Pokemon in the game, aside from the fusion forms of Necrozma and of course Zacian and Zamazenta, but yeah, besides those Pokemon, this is always going to be a strong staple when it comes to Steel type raid damage. You do not ever want to discount Metagross. It's a very powerful Pokemon, and I do foresee that it will be a future-proof Pokemon as well once its Mega Evolution comes out. Next up, we gotta talk about Salamence. So, when it comes to Dragon type raid damage, of course there is always going to be Rayquaza, but the next best option is always going to be Salamence. This is one of the most powerful dragon types in the game, and it's also one of the highest damage, neutral damage dealers in the game as well. That's not a legendary. You really should not discount Salamence. If you do not have a Mega Rayquaza, for example, you could use Mega Salamence as a great second option. And when it comes to raid battles, this Pokemon can just nuke down pretty much any raid boss that is weak against dragon types. It's a very powerful Pokemon. I do also like that you could use it as a flying type, but primarily you would use it as a dragon type. And I will say that when it comes to the top 10 Pokemon that are not legendaries, you need to include Salamence because of the amount of damage it can deal, and pretty much because it's kind of like a mini Rayquaza. So if you do not have Rayquaza, you need to go with Salamence instead. Alright, now the next Pokemon that I want to talk about is actually one that not a lot of players would consider to be top tier as of late, but it used to be considered top tier, but I would make the argument that this is still one of the most useful Pokemon, and it's going to be Hydreigon. The reason why Hydreigon has fallen off quite a little bit is mainly because of Tyranitar rising in the ranks thanks to it getting Brutal Swing, but I will still say that Hydreigon is really good as a dark type raid attacker, specifically because it has the dual typing of Dragon on top of Dark. Yes, it's going to make it susceptible to Pokemon that have a fairy type attack, but I will say that Hydreigon is just all around really useful. The Dragon typing actually gives it some decent type coverage, and I just feel like this Pokemon is just such a hard hitter. Like, you really should never discount Hydreigon. It's such a powerful and useful Pokemon, especially when it comes to Team Go Rocket battles. I often find myself using Hydreigon over Tyranitar simply because it does have that dragon typing, which gives it some more resistances. So yeah, I will say that Hydreigon is a top 10 Pokemon when it comes to non-legendaries, and if you're discounting Hydreigon as of late, I really feel like you need to give it a second look. And then a Pokemon that's going to be very powerful against Hydreigon is of course going to be Mamoswine. Mamoswine is all around one of the best ice types in the game, and it's going to continue to be so. I think the only Pokemon that could ever outclass it are going to be Shadow Pokemon, as well as maybe some legendaries, but Mamoswine is always going to be like probably one of the most consistent Pokemon ever, and that's mainly because there's not many ice types. So because of that, you really need to invest in Mamoswines. You will often end up using them, and then on top of that, you could also use it as a ground type if you need to. So Mamoswine is definitely one of the best Pokemon in the game, and it's going to continue to be so for the foreseeable future. Alright, I guess we're down to the last two, and I'm going to include Chandelure. Chandelure is a very powerful fire type, and recently a lot more players have been using this Pokemon, specifically because of the fire type raid damage that's been needed with some of the bosses. And I will say that Chandelure is a Pokemon that a lot of people will discount, but I really do think it's one of the best Pokemon in the game. On top of it having very powerful fire type attacks, you could use it as a ghost type, and I really feel like because there's such a lack of really powerful fire types right now, Chandelure is going to be a great option. You should definitely consider powering up a Chandelure if you have it. It's going to do wonders for your account, and you're going to have an easy time with certain raid bosses as well. Alright, and this brings me to the last Pokemon, which I will consider to be one of the top 10 when it comes to non-legendary Pokemon. And I know this is going to be very contentious because a lot of people will say this Pokemon is too weak or it's not going to be as powerful, but I'm really taking into consideration its Mega Evolution and how often it is used as the #1 counter to certain raid bosses. But it's going to be Gengar. I really do think Gengar deserves to be on this list. It's a very powerful glass cannon. It's one of the best glass cannons in the game. It still deals an incredible amount of damage. It does have a Mega Evolution that's going to be top tier, and I just feel like overall, it's consistently one of the best Pokemon in the game. Yes, there's going to be much better ghost types. I think even Chandelure does a lot more damage and can last longer in battle compared to Gengar, but it has a Mega Evolution, and the Mega Evolution is what makes it so powerful. I really feel like Gengar is one of the top 10 Pokemon in Pokemon GO that just isn't a legendary or mythical, and you should never discount it. Now, I did have a hard time for this last slot because there's so many different options. Like, I was considering Machamp. That is definitely a Pokemon that many would consider to be top tier. Some people would say that Flygon is a top tier Pokemon, which it is, but I really feel like Gengar is the one that won out because among all of the non-legendary Pokemon that I use, it's definitely the one that I end up using the most. I really feel like its Mega Evolution is always going to be useful, and then when it comes to gym battles and Team Go Rocket battles, the glass cannon nature of Gengar has always been very useful. So yeah, ultimately, this is going to be my top 10 list of non-legendary and mythical Pokemon as of the summer of 2025. But of course, there's going to be more Pokemon that come out. There's going to be Pokemon that are going to get a move shakeup. And I think because of that, more so than the top 10 list that I made a couple of days ago, this list is definitely subject to change. But I will say that if you have these 10 Pokemon, you're definitely going to go pretty far with your Pokemon GO account. You're going to be able to do certain raid bosses, and you're going to be able to defeat pretty much every single Team Go Rocket battle out there. Yeah, these are 10 Pokemon you should definitely invest into because they're right now some of the most powerful Pokemon in the game that are not legendaries or mythicals. But yeah, in any case, that's going to be it for this video. Let me know your thoughts regarding everything that I talked about down below. I guarantee there's going to be people who will disagree with this list. So if you happen to have a Pokemon that should have been on this list and you feel like it needs to be considered as a top 10 Pokemon, definitely say what it is down below, and yeah, maybe you could prove me wrong. Let's see what happens. Yeah, so definitely share your thoughts and comments, and let's have a great discussion. Thank you so much for making it all the way to the end of this video. If you ended up enjoying it, make sure you hit that like button, subscribe if it's your first time here, and don't forget that notification bell so you can stay up to date on whenever I upload videos. And real quick, let me give a shout out to all of my patrons on Patreon. You make this channel content possible. If you want to support the Content Soda channel, the best way you can do that is going to be by joining my Patreon. And if you become a paid Patreon member, I'm going to add you to my Pokemon GO friends list. So that means for stuff like remote raids, the friendship system, opening and sending gifts. If you want to play Pokemon GO with me, then make sure you go and check out my Patreon. I'll put a link to it in the description below. And if you want to support my channel in a completely different way, you can do so by following me on social media. My handle is @Jinsula. I'm on the platforms you see on the bottom of your screen. Make sure you go over there and give me a follow, and you'll have access to some exclusive content, and you'll be able to keep up with my daily life. And that's going to be it for this video. I'm Jinsula. Be safe, have fun, love yourself today, and I'll catch you all later.